Holy crap, that episode. Hello, my name is Catherine Bogle, and you are watching my video on Game of Thrones Season 3, Episode 4, and now his watch is ended. So there was a lot of jumping around in this episode, and I'm really sorry if I can't fit everything in as usual, but so much to talk about. So we start off with Jaime, and we see his poor dangling hand, and he's riding on this horse, and he looks like he's about ready to freaking keel over and die. And Bran's looking terribly concerned, and these guys are just being assholes, and then Jaime, falls off his horse and into the mud, and they just, kick him around, and they have this little, battle thing happen, and it really freaking sucks for Jaime. He's out of energy, and he's, sick, clearly, and dying, probably from blood loss, and these guys are idiots, and they're not helping him. So at this point, we're seriously feeling bad for Jaime, and Brienne actually seems like she really cares now, which is actually kind of adorable, and then Locke is just being a complete douchebag, and everyone just fucking hates him. So then we're skipping to Tyrion, and he's going to see Mr. Unit Guy, Varys, and because he wants proof of the fact that Cersei's tried to get him killed in the big battle. Then he tells us a really sad story about how he got his balls cut off. Which actually, I'd always kind of been curious about that, so it was kind of nice to find out. And then they're kind of talking about revenge, and Tyrion's like, I want revenge now, I don't just want, metaphorical revenge. And then, the whole time, Varys is trying to open this crate with a crowbar, and you have no idea what's in the crate. And then at the end, it's like, oh hey, there's a guy in there, and he's the sorcerer dude who cut his dick off and stuff, I guess. So then we skip to the crows, and we have Sam's friends there talking about wanting to leave Crusters because he's kind of a giant asshole, and they're all starving, and they're all shoveling pig shit and stuff, and holy crap, this does not look like a fun place to be. Then Sam walks in on the woman who had the baby in the previous couple episodes, and they kind of talk about how he doesn't have a name and stuff, and how there's no point to naming him because he's just gonna die and stuff, and Sam's all definitely wants to save the baby, and she's all you have to save him, and blah blah blah, and it's really sad. So then Bran is running through the woods in his dreams, because obviously he can't run in real life, real life in the show, and he's chasing the three-eyed raven, and then he comes on this big-ass fucking tree, and then Joggin appears or whatever, and he's just you need to follow him and catch him or whatever, and so Bran's fine, whatever, climbs the tree, and then Catelyn appears in his dream, and he basically falls out of the tree and dies again. Well, not dies, loses use of his legs. Then when he wakes up, Joggin's staring at him, and it's a little creepy. And then we go back to Varys talking to Rose, and they're talking about Pod and how the girls were just so pleased and didn't ask for payment and stuff. And, he just doesn't understand how that happened and stuff. I don't know, it's just kind of funny. And then they talk about Littlefinger being interested in Sansa Stark, and that's all real fucking creepy. So I hope he just goes off to the Eyrie and never comes back. But Rose kind of sells them out and tells Varys that Littlefinger plans on bringing Sansa with him. Fuck you, Rose. So then we're in King's Landing, but we go over to Joffrey talking with Marjorie, and then Cersei's talking to Olenna, and holy frig, Joffrey's acting kind of like a scary psychopath, with all the tombs and stuff, and of course Marjorie's just going along with it. But then, Cersei's and Olenna are talking about how mothers will do anything for their children and all that crap. So then they're talking about how the Targaryens built these crazy awesome tomb things, and they actually are really cool. I don't think we got to see them at all until now, but they're really cool. And then we hear, all this chanting and yelling outside, and Marjorie's oh, it's the people, and they love you, and if you give them love, they'll give you it back 1,000-fold, and so then, of course, Joffrey's oh, well, let's go open the gates, and they go outside, and everyone's cheering for Marjorie, note, not Joffrey, and when they go outside, and they're all, oh, wave, blah, 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 and it's Marjorie, you little dickens. And of course, Cersei's is not pleased at all. Not at all. She is not happy. So we're back to Theon and the dude who's supposedly taking him back to Yara. and he's saying how he like worked for the Greyjoys and stuff, and how his father, they're kind of talking about like his father supposedly knew Theon was being tortured, and if he did, fucking asshole. You know your son's being tortured and you just leave him? Like, fuck off. And then it's so sad, because Theon's talking about how he paid the iron price for Winterfell, and then he says that Ned Stark was his only real father, basically, that the head of his real father was chopped off in King's Landing, and you're all just like, what? Like, no! Like, I really want Theon to, like, go back and join the Starks, but it's kind of way too late now, I think. He's kind of gone downhill. I also like to make note, how can Theon walk so well after what they did to his foot? Like, they screwed something in his foot. I feel like walking after that would be really fucking hard. And holy crap, plot twist! The dude actually led him right back to where he was, and I can't believe you didn't notice that, Theon. I didn't notice it either, but still, you would have actually been there. And he just leads him right back to the people who tortured him, and oh my god, the look on Theon's face, he was so afraid and freaking asshole. Like, thanks, man. Saving his ass just to bring him back to the torture chamber. They're back to Jaime and Bran is telling Jaime to eat so he doesn't die, and he's basically like, what's the point of living without my hand? So Jaime's basically like, oh, I'm dying, and Bran's will like, fucking take revenge. Like, you're a kingslayer, don't just fucking give up. And Bran calls Jaime a woman, and then he finally actually eats, so at least he listened. And then Bran brings up the fact that he saved her life, and then Jaime just fucking stares at her, so we don't even get to see what he says. Thanks! And we're back at King's Landing with Cersei and Tywin. Tywin's just writing away, and Cersei's just kind of awkwardly sitting there, trying to kind of get his attention and stuff. You're very not subtle there, Cersei. And they kind of do this funny little thing where, obviously, like, Tywin's doing as much as he can to save his son. Like, he started a war over a different son, right? Like, he's gonna do everything he can to find Jaime. And so she's just kind of like, fine, and then he's like, you're still here? Why? Then, of course, Cersei's kind of having a little fit because she's a girl and she's not a dude, and so she's not as considered to her father. And then Tywin basically says that she's not as smart as she thinks she is. And I agree. Then we're with Olenna, and she's basically talking about the different kind of symbols for all the different families, like the Starks, the dire wolves, etc. And then they're talking about like the sigils, and like they all have like a phrase to go with their names. And she talks about the winter is coming. It's like, no one's gonna forget that one. No one. And then Varys comes to speak to Olenna, and she's being very amusing and sassy. Gotta say, I love her personality. So they walk together, and they get to talking about Sansa, and they're talking about Littlefinger and how he wants to take her away, and Olenna's kind of like, well, why are you telling me this and stuff? And he's kind of like, well, I know you're kind of interested in her. And Varys even says that Littlefinger is one of the most dangerous men in Westeros, which is probably a lot coming from him considering he has so many spies, and he's a pretty powerful dude too. And then they say there's like an obvious solution. Looking forward to seeing this obvious solution. Then we're to Marjorie and Sansa, and Marjorie interrupts Sansa while she's praying, and then they're kind of joking around, and Marjorie is very obviously trying to befriend Sansa, but I want to know why. There's obviously something behind this, and I don't think it's just because she wants to be friends with Sansa, that's for damn sure. And they even mentioned, like, her marrying Loras, and it's like, why do I not trust you at all, Marjorie? And then we're back with the crows, and we find out why the episode is called what it is, because one of their men have died of fucking starvation, because he's an asshole, and he's not feeding anybody, and taking all their wine, like, frig off, you douchebag. And so they're having this little spat here, and he gets really mad, and he, like, threatens everybody, and then all of a sudden, friggin' knife up the gut, and everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck just happened? Like, this is not good, and they get in a big fight, and then everyone's suddenly fighting each other, and it's like, you guys are supposed to be a brotherhood, like a family, why are you fucking fighting each other? I guess this is what fucking starvation does to people, but they get fighting each other, and then they kill the leader of the crows, and then, it's just not cool. And then Sam goes and gets the girl with the baby, and they peel the fuck out of there. Good, Sam. I hope you guys get back to the wall safely. So now we're to Arya and Gendry, and they're being taken by the Brotherhood with no banners still. And they're being taken into this weird cave thing with the hound and stuff, and so they have hoods over their heads so they don't know where they're going, and then they peel them off, and there's like fire, and they meet the real leader of the Brotherhood, I think, because obviously it's not Taurus, but still. So we meet Eric Dondarrion, who seems like he's like on the Stark side, and then you kind of learn a bit more about the Brotherhood, which is kind of good for people like me who haven't read the books, because I was kind of wondering what they were all about and stuff, but it's kind of nice because we get to know more about them and how they're like seeking justice basically, and they seem like good guys, and then they're talking about getting justice from the Hound and how he didn't actually kill these people. Then Arya, being the smartass she is, brings up Micah, and I like the Hound, so Arya, stop putting him to his death here. But then at least they're kind of like, oh, well, we can't really trial you by that, so we'll trial you by combat, and then so Eric is going to fight the Hound, and then they mention the Lord of Light. All respect gone. All of it. Like, seriously, this Lord of Light shit needs to fucking stop. It's ridiculous. And then we get to Dany! Finally! Like, this whole episode, it was just kind of, like, really normal and slow, and then we get to Dany and BAM! Shit hits the fucking fan! So at the first of the scene, the whole time, she's like, please have a plan, please have a plan, please have a plan. Holy fuck, does she ever have a plan. And we get to finally see how many freaking soldiers, like, this 8,000 plus are, and that's a lot of freaking soldiers. So then Dany goes and gets her baby, and she hands him to Sir Douchington. So then the deal is done, and once he hands her, like, the gold whip, so she's officially in charge of Unsullied, and then she walks back to them, and she calls out to them in Valyrian. Holy crap! Like, chills and goosebumps, like, she starts talking to them and basically is like, you're mine now, like, and blah blah blah, and oh my god, it's just so crazy! As Dany speaks Valyrian because it's her freaking mother tongue. You guys were freaking right when you said I was gonna love this, like, episode and love to see what happened with that, and it's totally called part of this. So then Dany tells them to destroy anyone who's ever held them captive, like the slaves and blah blah blah, and then don't rape anybody, don't hurt anyone who's fine, and then they just respond immediately and they kill everybody, like all the slave owners and stuff. And then you see like Dany, and then she's just like Dracarys, and then her dragon just lights the dude on fire, and it's just like, freaking finally, like, I was such an ass. I am so glad she knew what he was saying the whole time and just pretended that she didn't. Like, friggin' props. Smart girl. Then I like how you see, like, Jorah and Sir Barristan, and they're just standing there kind of like, the fuck just happened? I really think the Unsullied really deserve this because they kind of had, like, the shittiest lives ever. And then Dany asks them, like, will you fight for me as free men? Like, if anyone wants to leave, you will not be penalized, you will not be hurt, like, you can just leave. And then instead they all start banging their spears against the ground, and they join her as free fighters. So this is what she wanted. She wanted free soldiers who wanted to fight for her. So in freeing the Unsullied, she got an army worth having. So then they're leaving the city of Astapor, and you see all the freaking soldiers, and you see the dragons flying overhead, and Dany drops the whip, and holy crap, has she come a long way. Like, you think back to season 1, she was this, like, weak little girl. Now she's a queen. She is a Khaleesi. Like, she is a badass. King's Landing, I would fucking watch out. And then I got to see the preview for the next episode, because it came on right after the show, which pleases me. And yeah, it looks like it's gonna be definitely an interesting next episode. So we're having, they're handing Jaime over to Lord Bolton. The ginger-bearded dude, frick, I can't remember his name, is threatening Jon, and then I think Sexy Time might be in the next episode. Then the Hound is gonna fight Eric, and frickin' Dany better be in the next episode. I want to see what's gonna happen with her, and then it dramatically ends with Arya screaming burn in hell. So, holy crap, I can't wait to freaking see the next episode. Why are weeks so long? So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for all the support to all my new subscribers. I love you guys. Thank you for all the comments and likes, etc. Subscribe, comment, Twitter and junk below. Thanks for watching. My name is Catherine Bogle, and you just watched my review on episode 4 of season 3 of Game of Thrones.